chosen one, you have done something very few people are able to do when they have been wounded. You did not allow your pain to decide the kind of person you would become. In recent days, as your heart was tested by disappointment, misunderstanding, or unfair treatment, you found yourself standing before two paths. One path led toward anger, retaliation, and words capable of making others suffer as you had suffered. The other path was quieter, more difficult, yet far purer. You chose to guard your heart against bitterness, to remain silent when speaking would only make matters worse, and to continue acting with kindness, even while many wounds were still present within you. I saw that choice. Archangel Michael, the faithful messenger, protector, and executor of my will, also stands as a reminder of the courage required not to bow before provocation. Yet it is I who now speak directly to you and tell you that the greatest strength you have recently displayed was not your ability to defeat anyone, but your refusal to allow the way others treated you to transform you into someone you never wished to become. There were moments when you had every reason to be angry. You knew the truth, yet you were misunderstood. You offered sincerity and received coldness in return. You tried to preserve a relationship, a position, or a bond of trust, while others treated your efforts as though they were merely expected. When everything fell apart, part of you wanted to reveal all that you knew, to make them face the consequences and feel the pain they had caused you. Those emotions did not make you a bad person. Anger is a natural response when you have been insulted, betrayed, or disregarded. I do not ask you to pretend that you are not hurting, nor do I want you to use spiritual language to conceal your wounds. What I see and cherish is that although powerful emotions arose within you, you did not surrender complete control of your behavior to them. Your compassion is not weakness, and your silence is not always fear. At times, silence is a form of wisdom, because you understand that a sentence spoken in anger can destroy something that may take years to rebuild, if it can be rebuilt at all. You have begun to recognize that not every argument is worth winning. Not every rumor requires an answer, and not every person is willing enough to listen for you to exhaust yourself explaining. You were not silent because you had nothing to say. You were silent because you did not want to use your words as weapons. That is the mark of someone who is learning self-mastery. Yet, my beloved child, I also want you to understand that kindness does not mean accepting every form of mistreatment. Compassion does not require you to remain where others repeatedly wound you. You can keep your heart free from resentment, while still making it clear that a boundary has been crossed. You can refuse retaliation while still leaving a disrespectful relationship. You can forgive without immediately restoring trust. Mature love does not ignore wrongdoing. It looks directly at the truth without using that truth to humiliate another person. If you remain silent, only because you fear losing someone, fear being judged, or fear facing conflict, that silence will gradually become a burden. But when you remain silent long enough to regain your peace, and then choose the right moment to speak with clarity, that is wisdom. I know there have been people who assumed that because you were gentle, they could continue crossing your boundaries. They treated your patience as permission and your refusal to retaliate as proof that you did not understand what was happening. But kindness does not mean blindness. You may see everything clearly and still decide not to create a public conflict. You may know what someone has said behind your back without immediately rushing into confrontation. You may recognize dishonesty without turning yourself into someone determined to expose every fault. Such restraint does not make you small. It reveals that you are living according to your values rather than allowing another person's behavior to dictate your response. There is a profound difference between suppressing anger and transforming it. Suppression happens when you pretend to be calm while inwardly replaying the story, imagining confrontations and gradually becoming cold. Transformation occurs when you honestly acknowledge that you are hurt, recognize what has been violated, and then use that energy to make a healthy decision. Perhaps you need to speak with the person involved. Perhaps you need to step back, rest, or seek counsel from someone trustworthy. Perhaps you need to end a connection that is no longer safe, or perhaps you may discover that part of the situation arose from misunderstanding and can be resolved through honest conversation. I do not want you merely to appear noble on the outside, while resentment slowly consumes you within. I want you to become truly free. The compassion I am forming in you is not a softness without strength. It is compassion that knows how to speak the truth, establish boundaries, and walk away when necessary. It does not encourage you to become the place where others unload all their chaos. It teaches you to treat others kindly without betraying yourself. You are allowed to say, "That hurt me." You are allowed to say, "I will not accept this treatment." You are allowed to end a conversation when the other person only wishes to insult you. Such words do not contradict forgiveness. On the contrary, they protect the respect that every healthy relationship requires. Michael stands as an image of protection, but he does not teach you to become combative. True protection helps you guard the door without building a prison around your heart. It teaches you to discern who must be forgiven from a distance, who may still be given an opportunity to change, and who has demonstrated over time that they should no longer be allowed deep access to your life. You do not need to view everyone as an enemy. A person who disappoints you may not necessarily intend to destroy you. Sometimes people act from immaturity, fear, or wounds of their own that they have not yet learned to face. Understanding this may lessen your anger, but it does not require you to deny the consequences of their actions. Some people will apologize because they have sincerely recognized what they have done. Others will apologize only because they fear losing access to you. The difference is not found in their emotional words at the beginning, but in the way they change afterward. A sincere person will not demand that you immediately forget everything. They understand that trust requires time to be rebuilt. They are willing to hear about your pain without reversing responsibility. They do not merely promise to act differently. They allow their actions to prove it. Let forgiveness be freely given, but allow trust to be rebuilt one step at a time. Forgiveness may be the gift you offer to release your own heart, while closeness must be protected through responsibility on both sides. I also see the times when your reactions were not perfect. There were moments when you remained silent too long and eventually exploded. There were times when you spoke sharply because you had endured too much for too many days. There were moments when you avoided conversation and hoped others would somehow understand what you had never clearly expressed. Do not conclude that all your efforts to grow are meaningless because of those moments. You are learning. Strength does not mean never making mistakes. It means recognizing them, apologizing, and changing. If you wounded someone while trying to defend yourself, Humbly accept your share of responsibility. Another person's wrongdoing does not make every one of your reactions right. Yet do not carry the entire blame for a situation in which both people played a part. Look at the matter fairly, neither defending yourself blindly nor condemning yourself excessively. What brings me joy is not that you endured great suffering without complaint. I do not measure your strength by the number of times you allowed yourself to be hurt. What I see is your ability to choose a different path after pain. You no longer want to continue the cycle in which wounded people go on to wound others. You have recognized that retaliation may bring brief satisfaction, but it rarely produces lasting peace. When you sow the same pain that was given to you, you remain bound to the old story. But when you end the cycle, you begin writing a different future. Ending the cycle does not mean maintaining contact with everyone. Some endings are necessary. You can close a door without closing your heart. You can leave without speaking badly about the other person to everyone you meet. You can protect the truth without turning it into an instrument of revenge. Let the way you live after the event reveal who you are. When others expect you to become bitter, and you continue to preserve your kindness, you are not doing so to prove anything to them. You are doing it because you refuse to let pain steal the beautiful qualities I planted within you. Remember, however, that kindness does not always look like smiling. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is stop explaining. Stop trying to rescue someone who does not want to change, and stop placing everyone else's needs above your own peace. You can love someone and still acknowledge that the two of you should no longer walk closely together. You can hope that they find a better path without making yourself responsible for every consequence of their choices. I have not called you to rescue everyone. I have called you to live honestly, to love wisely, and to honor healthy boundaries. What you have endured is also teaching you to look upon others with greater mercy. Because you know what it feels like to be misunderstood, you will become slower to judge. Because you have experienced betrayal, you understand the value of keeping your word. Because you have received words that caused pain, you will become more careful with the way you speak. This is how suffering is transformed into something useful. It is no longer merely a wound. It becomes a source of understanding that helps you create safety for those around you. Yet do not allow empathy to make you carry another person's responsibility. You may understand why someone behaves a certain way and still declare that such behavior cannot continue. I want you to use this time to examine what is happening within you. Are you still replaying the argument in your mind every day? Are you secretly hoping that the other person will fail so that justice will feel restored? Have you repeated the old story so often that it has become the center of your identity? If so, gently begin putting it down piece by piece. You do not have to forget immediately, nor must you force yourself to forgive in a single moment. Begin by refusing to feed fantasies of revenge. Spend less time watching their life. Return your energy to your work, your health, your family, and the healthy relationships around you. Whatever you nurture will grow. Do not continue watering what you desire to leave behind. If you need an apology that has never come, understand that your healing does not have to wait for it. Perhaps that person is not mature enough to acknowledge what they did. Perhaps they hold on to a different version of the story so that they do not have to face responsibility. You cannot control that. but you can decide whether their silence will continue defining the years ahead of you. You are allowed to move forward without a perfect ending. Some doors are closed not through explanations, but through your decision never to return to a place that has repeatedly proven incapable of offering respect. Forgive yourself for the reactions of which you are not proud. Forgive yourself for staying too long, trusting too deeply, or saying what should not have been said when you had been under pressure for too long. Forgiveness does not remove responsibility. It creates space for you to take responsibility without hating yourself. Repair what can be repaired. Apologize where an apology is needed, and learn to express yourself earlier so that resentment does not accumulate. A lesson has only truly been received when it changes the way you live. I know that at times you wonder whether choosing kindness allows others to believe that they have won. But, my beloved child, life is not a contest in which the person who inflicts the greatest pain becomes the victor. If they remain filled with bitterness while you recover your peace, you are not the one who has lost. If they continue repeating the same behavior while you grow, learn boundaries, and live with greater kindness, you have stepped outside the circle in which they remain trapped. Your victory does not need their recognition. It is revealed in peaceful sleep. In the moment when hearing their name no longer makes you tremble, and in your ability to open your heart to good people without forcing them to repay the debts of your past. You chose to answer what wounded you with goodness, and that quiet decision is more precious than any grand declaration made before a crowd. I saw the struggle within you during the moments no one else witnessed. I know there were times when you wanted to speak forcefully in order to defend yourself, to answer cruel words with even sharper ones, and to make the person who hurt you feel the very pain they had placed upon you. Yet, in the midst of your anger, you paused. You did not deny the truth or pretend that what they did was right. You simply refused to let pain lead you into an action you would later regret. The angels I send do not measure you by the achievements the world usually notices, but by the hidden choices that shape your character. Archangel Michael, the faithful messenger, protector, and executor of my will, is remembered in this moment as an image of great courage. Not the courage to defeat another person, but the courage to overcome the bitterness, seeking to possess your heart. Perhaps you believe that no one understands how difficult that battle truly was. Others only saw your silence and assumed that you were not hurting. They saw you continue behaving normally and thought you had forgotten. Some even mistook your restraint for weakness, believing that you lacked the strength to defend yourself or did not recognize what they were doing. But I saw the nights when you had to remind yourself not to write anything while you were angry. I know the moments when you wanted to tell everyone the entire story, so they would take your side, yet ultimately chose to confide only in someone trustworthy. I know you once trembled with outrage and still decided not to hurt innocent people merely because you were in pain. That was not passivity, it was strength refined in the hidden places. What you did may be described as a response that rose above ordinary instinct. When insulted, people often want to protect themselves by causing pain in return. When betrayed, they are tempted to use another person's secrets as weapons. When abandoned, they may try to prove they need no one, or rush into another relationship to cover the emptiness. But you have begun to understand that the fastest response is not always the right one. You allowed time to create distance between emotion and action. You learned to ask, Will what I am about to do help me become a better person, or will it merely transfer my pain to someone else? That pause opened the way to a new path. I do not dismiss your anger. Anger may reveal that a boundary has been crossed, trust has been betrayed, or an injustice needs to be acknowledged. You do not need to feel ashamed for being angry. I simply do not want anger to become your ruler. When you use it to speak the truth calmly, establish boundaries, or leave a place that is no longer safe, it can become a source of healthy strength. But if you feed it with imagined arguments, watch the other person constantly, and hope for their downfall, anger will gradually consume you. Forgiveness, therefore, does not begin when you feel that everything is all right. It begins when you decide to stop nourishing the desire for revenge. You acted with goodness while you were still hurting. But do not misunderstand this as a command to remain gentle toward someone who continues causing harm. Kindness does not require you to open your door to everyone. Forgiveness does not require you to restore their access to your deepest places. You can wish that someone matures while still keeping your distance. You can refrain from speaking badly about them while still telling the truth to those who hold responsibility. You can release your desire for revenge while still seeking appropriate protection if your work, reputation, or safety is being threatened. Love does not deny justice. Love helps you pursue justice without becoming a reflection of what you oppose. I want you to remember that not every silence is noble. Sometimes silence is only fear in disguise. If you remain silent because you fear another person's anger, fear abandonment, or fear facing the truth, you may be abandoning yourself. Maturity does not mean endlessly enduring everything. It means knowing when to remain silent so that a situation does not become worse, and when to speak in order to protect what is right. You may say calmly, "This cannot continue." You may admit, "I have been hurt and I need time." You may also say, "I forgive you, but trust must be rebuilt through action." Such words are not lacking in love. They are evidence that you are learning to love others without betraying your own dignity. Michael is remembered as a protector because you need courage to preserve your boundaries without nurturing hatred. Some people will dislike the more mature version of you because they once benefited from your constant willingness to say yes, endure mistreatment, and return after every wound. When you begin saying no, they may accuse you of changing, becoming cold, or losing your compassion. But not every change is a loss of kindness. Sometimes you are simply no longer allowing your kindness to be exploited. Michael reminds you to stand firm against such manipulation, while I teach you to stand firm without humiliating anyone. The angels who bear witness to your journey do not do so in order to create a record that causes you to see yourself as more special than others. I do not want this message to plant pride within you, as though you belonged to a rare and superior group above those who have not yet learned to forgive. Every person has a different journey, and there may have been times when others showed patience toward you before you knew how to behave more wisely. Your forgiveness is truly beautiful only when it is accompanied by humility. You do not need to stand before the one who hurt you and declare yourself more noble than they are. Simply live differently. Refuse to repeat what they did, and do not pass that pain to the next person. Perhaps you once received gentleness from someone when your own behavior was wrong. Someone may have chosen not to retaliate, even though they could have done so. Someone may have given you an opportunity to change or quietly protected your dignity when you were not mature enough to understand what they were doing. Remember the times when mercy was shown to you, so that today's forgiveness does not become a crown of pride. You may acknowledge the strength you have displayed, but also remember that everyone needs opportunities to learn. This does not mean you must remain beside someone who refuses to change. It simply helps you leave without hatred, the image of a record. Being brought before Michael may be understood as a reminder that every quiet choice carries meaning. No act of kindness is lost, merely because no one saw it. Each time you restrained a cruel word, a cycle of pain was interrupted. Each time you chose to speak the truth without humiliating another person, you created a different way of resolving conflict. Whenever you refused to expose the secrets of someone who betrayed you, in order to take revenge, you preserved your integrity. These things may not make you famous, but they shape you into someone you can respect when you look back upon your life. I also see the cost of those choices. At times, it feels unfair that the person who caused the pain continues living normally while you are left doing the work of healing. You wonder why the one who acted wrongly does not carry the same burden you carry. But, my beloved child, you do not fully know what is happening within them, and life does not always allow you to witness the consequences of every choice. If you can only find peace after seeing them suffer, you are still placing the key to your freedom in their hands. A deeper liberation comes when the outcome of their life no longer determines the condition of your heart. The noblest achievement is not forcing the one who attacked you to bow down, but preserving your goodness without allowing it to become naivete. You can learn from what happened, become more careful in giving trust, and still refuse to become suspicious of everyone. You can observe actions, allow relationships to be tested over time, and continue believing that good people exist. One person's betrayal does not represent all people. One failed relationship does not prove that love is always dangerous. Keep the lesson, but do not allow it to become a wall with no doorway. If that person returns, you do not need to immediately restore the former closeness. Listen, but observe carefully. Is the apology specific? Do they accept responsibility? Or do they continue trying to explain that you caused them to behave as they did? Have they changed in daily life? Or are they merely being gentle because they fear losing you? You do not need to punish them with coldness, but neither should you ignore every warning sign simply because you want the story to have a beautiful ending. Forgiveness may be offered today, but trust must be rebuilt over time. If they never return, your healing can still continue. You do not need to wait for one final conversation before you are allowed to live in peace. Some questions will never receive complete answers. Some people will never acknowledge what they have done, because doing so would require them to confront themselves. You may write down everything you wish to say and choose not to send it. You may share your pain with someone trustworthy, pray, and lay the story down piece by piece. Closure does not always come through an apology. Often it comes through your decision that the story will no longer occupy the remaining years of your life. I also want you to examine the times when your kindness may have been motivated by the desire to be recognized. Perhaps you forgave while secretly hoping others would see how noble you were. Perhaps you remained silent while longing for the day when everyone would discover how much you had endured. This is deeply human, and I do not condemn you, but I invite you to go deeper. Do what is right because it frees your heart. not because it builds an image. When you no longer need the crowd's approval, your kindness becomes purer. A response that rises above instinct does not deny your own needs. You still need rest, understanding, and a safe place in which to express yourself. Do not try to become so strong that no one realizes how exhausted you are. Speak honestly with someone capable of honoring what you share. If the pain continues and begins affecting your sleep, work, or ability to connect with others, seek appropriate support. I do not require you to heal everything alone in order to prove your faith. Receiving help is also an act of courage. You spread love while you were hurting, but now learn to direct some of that love toward yourself. Stop speaking to yourself with words you would never use toward someone you love. Do not call yourself foolish simply because you once trusted the wrong person. Do not hate yourself for failing to recognize the truth sooner. You made choices according to the understanding you possessed at that time. Today you see more clearly, and that clarity is precious. Take responsibility for what must be changed, but do not use your present wisdom to torment the person you once were. I do not want you to continue using forgiveness as a way of postponing a necessary decision. If a relationship repeatedly causes harm, you do not need to wait for even more painful evidence before you are allowed to leave. If an environment forces you to lie, remain silent before wrongdoing. And lose respect for yourself, seek another path within your ability. Kindness does not require you to stand beneath the rain merely to prove that you hold no resentment toward the sky. You may find shelter, change direction, and still remain grateful. The image of Michael, bringing your case before a heavenly council, may be received as a symbol that your choices carry great value. But do not turn it into a story that makes you dependent on being regarded as special. I do not need a meeting to know what is happening within you. I saw it before you ever put it into words. I know how you struggled with yourself in order not to act from anger. I know every time you wiped away your tears and still treated others with kindness. My desire is not to glorify you before an imagined council, but to help you recognize that you possess the ability to continue choosing what is good. And if today you are not yet able to forgive completely, do not pretend. Forgiveness is a process, not a sentence you must force yourself to speak. There may be days when you feel light, followed by days when the memory returns. That does not mean you have failed. Each time the pain rises again, you are given another opportunity not to feed resentment. You may say, I am still hurting, but I do not want this pain to determine my actions. That alone is already a significant step. Remember that loving someone who hurt you does not necessarily mean remaining close to them. Sometimes the most appropriate expression of love is refusing revenge, refusing slander, and also refusing to continue enabling harmful behavior. You can release them to their own journey, allowing them to face consequences and learn lessons you cannot learn on their behalf. If you continually rescue them from the results of their choices, you may unintentionally delay their growth. Letting go can sometimes be an act of kindness toward both of you. Continue using what you have learned to create a different atmosphere around you. When someone makes a mistake, correct them without humiliating them. When you hear a rumor, do not rush to spread it. When someone trusts you enough to share their pain, hold it with respect. When you are angry, slow down before sending words that cannot be taken back. These habits will transform compassion from a rare moment into a steady way of life. What is noble is not merely that you responded beautifully once, but that you continue building such character throughout the ordinary days of your life.